Hi, my name is Emmy. Welcome to my channel. If this triggers you, or you don't like it, then I would suggest exiting out of this tab and going to a different one that you enjoy. Because this isn't always going to be pleasant. I'm basically doing this YouTube channel because I want to say, like, for the past 4 years, I have thought to myself, gee, that would be a great way to talk through my anxiety, or I don't even use the word anxiety most of the time. I would just call it like over-stressedness about every fucking thing. Excuse my language. So my name's Emmy. I live in Michigan, and I'm 28, so we can get those things out of the way. I know I have something in my chest. If it scares you, click on something else. Because this is here for the rest of my life, and it's part of the reason that I am so anxious recently. So we're going to get through. I'm going to try not to make the intro video long because, like, I can't just start out with making me anxious, like, right this moment, because you don't know anything about my life, so it'd be kind of hard, right? So I'm 28. I am separated, not divorced, because I need the insurance, and that's pretty stressful. I'll get into that in a minute. I have a 2-year-old son. He lives with me. I have a service dog. I do drive a car. I did go to college. I didn't finish my clinical hours because I was too ill. So, although I graduated, I do not have my radiology tech license. My next step would have been to go to pre-med or med school and become a doctor. That is all out the window. I feel bad about that every single day. Like, every fucking day. It goes through my head every day when I'm trying to sleep, or just walking around thinking about how I've failed compared to what the standards set up for people my age and where I grew up were for. So, I don't have a job. Not proud to admit I'm on disability, but hey, let me set something straight for you all. Too many people think that you make, like, shit tons of livable money. I'm on disability, and I'm going to tell you right now, I make less than $700 a month. So, I don't need any nasty comments. Go yourself. I don't care. I've realized as I've gotten close to 30 and gone through all being sick and, like, in the hospital all the fucking time, and I'm sorry about the F-bombs. I'm going to try to clean up my language at some point. Like, I don't really care. If you don't like something, shove it. Go somewhere else. I'm talking about what I want to talk about. I know other people who I've met through other support groups have medical issues who may not be exactly the same as mine, but they feel this way too. And somebody needs to tell everyone else who might stare at us or think that we're weird, or think that we're triggering, or think that we're trying to make ourselves more ill, which, why would anyone do that? So that's how that goes. My son's dad, my ex, he lives like 2 blocks away, and he does get him, but not that often, so I'm gonna try to do these when he's sleeping, because 2-year-olds don't make good videos. They make a lot of running around and screaming noises, and I can't really do that. Okay. I think I've gotten through the first, like, 20,000 questions that people occasionally, I watch YouTube. I know the kind of questions that get put out there, and I know the mean and, like, hurtful, unuseful comments that people make. So I'm gonna read the comments, but I have no problem blocking you, reporting you if you're gonna be abusive. That's not okay. It's not okay for other people. Like, what if my son starts getting, you know what I mean? That's not okay. So let's roll into the medical craziness that is my life. I am not going to go back too far because I'm 28, and that literally might take like a 4-hour video. And this is my first video, so no. It's kind of hard to go through everything. So we're gonna start with like this line in my chest is because I have a few different diseases that cause my stomach not to empty I mean, it takes so long that stuff starts to ferment and I'll throw it up like the next day. That's the best way to say it. It just doesn't empty into my intestines. Quick medical lesson. It's supposed to do that like starting within a few minutes to a few hours. By 4 hours, it should mostly be into your small intestine. That doesn't happen with me. My small intestines move really, 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 really slow, so I can't have a tube. So this is a line that goes to my heart, into my bloodstream. Yep, right there, through my skin. And I run TPN, which is Total Parenteral Nutrition. It is all the fats, vitamins, proteins, sugars, electrolytes that one needs to survive. It also is fluids. I run fluids every day through it. Most of my medications are IV, so I'm IV pushing all day. I'm not a nurse, but at this point, I feel like I should just be given a degree for it because it's my whole life. So let's go to the conditions. I was initially just diagnosed with gastroparesis, which is a slowing of one's stomach generally. It doesn't necessarily mean your intestines. I was given Reglan, and I was already having problems prior to this, but you guys can let me know if you want to know about it, because it seems kind of pointless. We're talking already 5 years, 6 years back. Actually, it might be more like 7, because it's 2017. Dear Lord, I'm old. So, that's the thing. It made me twitch really, really bad. And I was in college for a radiology tech program, and I was living in a dorm, and I lived in Georgia for 7 years while I was doing this, and then I don't know why I stayed there so long. And anyway, so I had a job, but it's a 40-hour-a-week clinical, so I was like barely scraping by with $75. So I couldn't pay to see the doctor like all the freaking time. So we knew I was sick. I had electrolyte problems. My potassium would just like bottom to 1. By the way, like 3.5 to 5 is roughly the average. It kind of depends on the lab you use. So 1 is like where your heart stops. I've coded once in my lifetime, and maybe more, but I only remember the one time. So anyway, when I also had a neurologist because I was throwing up a lot, and apparently that sounded like a good idea to them. I don't know. I didn't have the best doctors when I first moved down there. So we went, and I took the Reglan. It made me feel like my body had restless leg syndrome, and also my face was twitching, and my neurologist was like, stop. It's going to become permanent. It's not worth it. Stop. I called the gastrointestinal doctor at the time that I had, and he kind of didn't give a fuck. So anyway, that was like, I want to say like 2011, maybe 2010. I don't know. It's when I finally told somebody, hey, look, the reason my potassium is low is because I'm puking all the time, and it's not on purpose, and I'm losing weight, and I'm sick of it, and I need help. And I had said it before. I'm not even going to talk about that. That was it's like almost a decade ago, so unless you want to hear it, I'm not telling you. Anyway, so I went along with that. I was in the ER at least once a month, and I'd be there for like 3 days, getting potassium straight in my veins. That hurts a lot. Like, think of liquid pain running through your arm. It's not like a regular IV because it burns and it makes you want to like just chop your limb off. And when you have real low potassium, you get partial paralysis problems where like your hands do this and your legs kind of like tense up. You can't move and it starts to feel like you can't breathe. It's terrifying. I always have blood pressure issues. I used to run every day. Even then, I was running every day because I liked to. And I never, despite being in several medical programs, I never thought, gee, my heart rate is ridiculously high when I'm running, because it was. But I didn't feel different than I had any time that I could remember. Long story short, it got to a point where the doctors at the hospital I was going just told me that they thought I was psychologically messed up and I was doing it on purpose. I went and saw a chronic illness psychologist, which is like mega expensive. And anyway, so it's mega expensive and we can't, all they did is say, look, you're not crazy. I got a different primary care doctor and she was great. It was awesome. And, but we still had to wait till I was like 75 pounds. Mind you, I am 5'4", so that's not okay. And then I was admitted to the hospital, and my primary care, we were waiting for a specific gastrointestinal doctor, but they had the longest waiting list ever. So we ended up just like, I couldn't walk. I was having really bad problems with my potassium, and obviously I was starving to death, which I can tell you right now is terrible. It feels like you can't breathe, your body can't move, you can't walk, you can't do the things you want to do. It's awful. It's awful. I hate being in the hospital. It's like fucking traumatic, but I didn't want to die. And at the time, I wasn't married, but I was with the same guy who is my son's father. And he's a paramedic, so we were okay in the manner of like, I knew I wouldn't totally die because someone could save me. I guess I'd be more scared if I was on my own, or I didn't have a kid, so I was at a point where I didn't care, because you just feel so awful every single day, man. Every day is worse than the last. You can't stop throwing up. You can't remember anything. You can barely get out of bed. It's terrible. So I went and I was admitted, and I had a doctor walk in and say, gee, you seem way happier, or like whatever. I guess he wanted me to be mad at the world. The world didn't do this to me, right? But I was told that my organs would have shut down within a few days. I started the TPN. I walked the graduation stage, but I still had a shit ton of clinicals to catch up on, because this whole time I was also full-time in school. And for a while, also working. Awesome, right? Anyway, we got the TPN started. I tried to, like, go to classes and get the tests done, and I did some clinicals here and there. It was very hard. I was also diagnosed with mixed connective tissue disease, where scleroderma is partially affecting like my intestinal system, and scleroderma usually it's on skin that you can see, or organs like your lungs. It makes them layman's terms, because y'all aren't nursing students. It makes your body kind of like, everything kind of goes hardened, or you want to say like less motion is the best way to put it, because if it was your lungs, terrifying enough. The person who ran the program, her daughter, like, call her the headmaster, her daughter died at 24 from scleroderma, so that was awkward enough. And rheumatoid arthritis, even though my ANAs didn't come back positive the second time, because I'm in pain all the time. And I pass out all the time. But everybody just kind of ignored that conveniently. Who knows why? Doctors are like that sometimes. They just can't see past their own ego. I don't mean to slam all doctors, okay? Y'all are keeping me alive. But there are people who maybe should rethink that they are not always correct. During this whole time, I was anxious. I kind of hated my life a lot, because before I started the TPN, and a little bit when I had first started, because they can't just like magically correct everything. Everything is a slow process. So I didn't have any infections for a little while, but I kept just, my potassium was so low. I had to keep going to the hospital. I didn't want to. I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to lay in a bed for like a week, and just, I don't Nah, I don't do that. I hate it. And I did get an infection once. It was hospital acquired. And that was my first, like, they know you can't take oral meds, but they won't give you something to reduce your 104 fever. I'm sorry. I'm not going to talk about that right now because I feel like that's going to raise this anxiety level and I won't be able to get through this. So, many points in my life I was told I may have dysautonomia, but there were like passers-by who say it, the best way to put it, because it never got looked into. I don't know what that's about. So, now I've been, I want to say tentatively diagnosed. This has been over a year and a half of a doctor saying your shortness of breath is not normal. Because I am allergic to iron. So go figure. I'm also allergic to like a list this long type of drugs. So we're not going to go into that unless someone cares. But I do have to get blood transfusions like every 3-ish months. So I'm like chronically anemic. But they're saying the shortness of breath doesn't have to do with this. Because my blood had been fully tanked up and I should have been able to breathe and it's not working. And my heart rate goes all crazy, and I get dizzy, and I pass out. It's some really annoying stuff, and my arms and my legs are starting to feel weak. I'm starting to have trouble, like, opening things. I don't close them all the way. It pisses family members off, but they don't live with me anymore, so, well. And I mean, it's been like a year. We finally got to see a neurologist who gives a damn figure. And that was very, very recently. And a cardiologist who specialized in dysautonomia, but the problem is that I also have the autoimmune issues, which are like fun little things that doctors feel like they can go, boop, it's autoimmune. I don't have to touch you. I mean, they don't say that, but they might as well, because it'd make my whole entire time sitting there talking to them quicker and probably cheaper. So anyway, I saw him, and that was like a week and a half ago. I don't even know what day of the week it is anymore. See, that's where we're going with this. This has accumulated to a point where all I want to do is sleep, but I can't, because for some reason my meds or my TPN or whatever, it's suddenly not agreeing with my body, and I get the restless leg feeling, like little things make you want to kick and move, but it's not in my legs. It's in my legs, it's in my butt, it's in my stomach, it's in my arms, it's in my hand. I've not slept more than 3 hours for the past 4 days, and I have a 2-year-old, so that's fun. Anyway, so I'm pretty weak and all this stuff, and I got told there's like a bunch of different kinds of dysautonomia type diseases, that there's different ways one can acquire it, which would create other problems. This is TMI, but I got sent to a urologist because that is not functioning right either. Like, I can't go when I want to. It's kind of sucky. I would say I had a prostate problem, but I'm a girl. So, there's that. And he was just saying, like, they could do a pacemaker, but we need to, like, I talked for an hour and a half, so now I have to go back and, have another appointment, or 2 or 3 or 4, and I have a bunch of tests I'm supposed to do, but I can't get does anybody else have this problem? You want to get something accomplished. They say, oh, you have to call them yourself, and it kind of gives you this license in your mind to just be like, I really have to do this. I really have to do this. But then you're like, wait and watch the clock till like almost 5. Because then you know they won't answer. It's an anxiety thing for me. I've literally had problems like calling doctors or anything else to make appointments my whole life. I made everybody else do it for me for a very long time. And then, see, I'm 28, so for a long time, you couldn't just go boop, boop, boop on your cell phone and make an appointment. That came along, and heaven help us, because now I can make appointments without talking to people. Either way, this is already closing in on 20 minutes, but I'm gonna keep going because I feel like I need to kind of spew all of this shit out before I make some like directed things at certain issues, like why am I so skinny still, why am I so pale, what happened before, where about my social stuff as opposed to my medical stuff. By social, I'm classifying that in like human related things, like what I did when I was in college, how I met my significant other, who by the way I still get along with, but there's issues, and what those issues are, and my son, and he's got some problems that we just found. He doesn't talk, he's already 2, he's never even called me mama. That is that's a problem. It makes me feel like a really bad parent. And I already feel like a really bad parent because when I got pregnant with him, I was told I would never be able to have a kid. I was asked if I wanted to abort him because we didn't know my extent of medical issues, but you know, why would you do that? And I think that I love him so much. I think the only reason I'm still alive, I'm not in an abusive relationship, is because him. Otherwise, I think I'd be like, peace, I just live in your house and you can yell at me or whatever. And if I take meds and they don't agree with me and I die, then I die. But that's not how I feel. I need to live and I have to live. So it's for him. I love him more than anything, but either way, I was told I couldn't have him. And I feel like a really bad person sometimes because he wants to run around. He's 2. And I can't do that. I'm sorry. I can't do it because I don't feel good and I'm weak, or it's the best way to put it. I feel weak. I feel like I walk around and I can't breathe. And if I sit down and I stand up, my heart rate goes real low or my blood pressure goes low and we're not even sure anymore and I can almost pass out, and that's not a fun feeling. But if I get up and I move around, like walk up the stairs, my heart rate goes above 150 and that's not a good feeling either. That's kind of a like gonna die feeling. He doesn't know that, and I feel like my retribution is the fact that he's never called me mama and he doesn't talk. He doesn't have autism. We've had him evaluated. He's super social, and he can hear, but he doesn't talk with his mouth. And I've been teaching him signs. All he's gotten is, I want to eat or I want to drink. He doesn't have any of the other ones. I don't know what to do about that. And I'm not asking for what to do because he's got a pediatrician and we have state certified speech therapists and special education teachers working on figuring out what would be the best thing to do for him to make him feel okay to talk or see why he can't bridge that gap. Either way, that's not even talking about me. The anxiety of him not talking and things is slowly creeping up on me. It's one of those things where every single day I have things running through the back of my head that make me feel like a trash human. I owe my divorce lawyer like $1,500, but I don't earn enough to pay that. I'm trying to pay it $50 a month. That weighs on my little head because I've never had bills I owe until I got sick. I owe hospitals money, but at this point I'm like, nah, I have 3 insurances. You know what I mean? Like, I will pay slowly as I can, but if my 3 insurances aren't working together and I try to fix it and then you mess it up again, I don't know what to tell you. I have other things in my life. I have a car that may not run forever. It's a 2006 Prius, so it's okay right now, but you never know. And that kind of stuff is like part of my anxiety, and then I'm anxious, like if this hurts, I'm terrified I have an infection, and then for me that means going to my local hospital, finding people to watch my son, because between my mom, which is why I moved back to Michigan, because I don't have any real life friends, so my mom, who lives 6 miles away, could watch him if she's not working because she's got to work to live. That's how life works. And or his dad, who also has to work, but he works crazy hours because he's a paramedic. There's nothing wrong with either of those things, but for me, that's going to the hospital. That's making sure that those two people who don't really get along work together. Which is fairly stressful because somehow it always involves me. And then I'm trying to like save my line, but I really want to get out of the hospital, and at some point I'm just like, rip it out of my body, put a new one in. I don't care if I lose access. Then that would end up in me dying, which is slightly a problem, but you know what? You know, in your head, when you're anxious and you're in the hospital and you feel trapped and you're worried about your son and other people who are the only two people who talk to you fighting, it's a problem. Every time I have a pain, I worry. Every single day except for Sunday, I am terrified of if the mail is going to drop something off saying I lose my disability or anything else. There's literally no reason for that to happen. But every day, I am terrified till it's after work hours or like mail delivery hours. I don't know why I live my every single day like that. Every single day. I'm terrified in the mail. I'm terrified of like phone calls. I'm terrified that I don't know. From whom, I don't know. Not phone calls I am anticipating or people I know. That is a different story. It's people I don't know because it's always a problem. To me, it's always a threat. It always feels like a threat. I live in a townhouse that is co-op. So I own it, but I kind of don't because I have to pay like a monthly due. And I don't know why. I mean, they have a lot of rules. I understand why you have a lot of rules. It's because people are shit humans deep down inside. They just throw stuff outside if they don't like it. Unless you say you're going to get fined. So I get it. But I do sometimes spend every day, like, I had to fight to get my service dog and keep him here. I mean, I had to, like, print out the Disability Act thing. Yeah. Anyway, so, and she doesn't stay here by herself. She goes everywhere with me. So why are they freaking worried about it? But I understand it. But the thing is that I live my day-to-day life, that I'm terrified something's going to happen. And now I'm kind of terrified of the doctors. Like, if I pass out in public in this state, they can revoke my license. And I say public because that's where you go to a doctor, like a hospital. Someone calls 911. In this state, if you pass out, according to my neurologist, you are, it doesn't matter. You could, like, be perfectly healthy and maybe you got, like, heat exhaustion, you passed out. Doesn't matter. If a doctor reports it, you lose your license for 6 months. And, I'm sorry, there's people running past my window, which I am using for lighting. It's kind of weird. I'm weird about that. I don't like people looking at me. I've been skinny shamed. You name it. The last thing I'm going to put on this that's like another topic, these perfect little chompers here, they're fake. My disease, see that? There's no bottom teeth like past the visible spot because my disease, between medications that I was on that I probably didn't need, and dry mouth, which apparently is part of it, and throwing up all the goddamn time. It is really annoying. I am sorry for my swearing. I will try to clean this up. Not in the editing because I'm not doing that shit. I don't know how. And, well, I do. But my computer broke thanks to my child who was up a little early and spilled some water on it, so now I don't have editing software. We're using Android, and that's how it's going to come out. So I guess you're just going to have to see how I talk and how I ramble and be okay with it. If not, cool. You don't need to watch this. I don't expect anybody to. The other thing is that because of that, my teeth, and some other reason that I didn't really understand, my teeth crumbled. They wouldn't hurt. They'd be like gray, but they would crumble in half, and well, then that hurts. And all kinds of like crazy shit. They just broke down really fast and it was scary. And for a while I had really painful teeth, but also I was missing like this one and like I had a flipper and they're falling out quicker than I could purchase more things. And dental insurance in the United States is odd. I don't know how other countries work. Anyway, their maximum that they will even pay out is usually like $1,000. Sometimes it's $2,000 if you're lucky, but everything costs so much money. So when I finally got my disability settlement in October of 2015, it wasn't a lot of money, but it was enough to cover. I wanted to get the implant dentures where it's like implants and bridges and you don't have to take them out and they won't fall out and they look nice, but I can't afford 35 grand. So I spent, still, it was almost like $10,000 having all these teeth pulled out and those ones pulled out and dentures, and I had bottom dentures. Don't get those. Just don't get a bottom partial. Like, save your bottom teeth if you can. I'm not saying you should ever like purposely destroy your teeth to get that. My point is those hurt. They're not comfortable. You can't chew. Closing your mouth hurts. I don't know why. It might just be me. I have allergies to everything, but it was unpleasant and I still had to pay for it. Anyway, so that was my most recent splurge, and I was very sad that I couldn't get the implants. That's all I wanted. I'm 28. You do know you have to like reline and replace dentures like every couple of years, and they're a couple $1,000s. Does anyone even know that? That's ridiculous. And my oral surgeon is the only person I really trusted with my mouth and my situation, but he didn't take my insurance. I had to pay him outright to pull my teeth because it was kind of a situation where you couldn't just pull them, because instead of teeth have their own sockets and they're technically a joint. Mine did not have a joint. They fused with the bone, so you can't just rip them out of your face because it doesn't work. That's what I'm trying to say. It doesn't work. So either way, that's the last thing I'm going to cover right now. I have like a million things that I could talk about, but I feel like going over 30 minutes is kind of a death sentence. Not for my phone, thank God. I had to get a brand new one. Not that I wanted to pay for a brand new one. It's because 2 days before Christmas, the phone charger that I bought from, I don't know where, I plugged it in the car, and the phone charger started smoking, and it burned the little chargy hole in the bottom, and I marginally fixed it, but it doesn't charge fast enough to like we didn't even know if it was gonna work, because at the time I had enough to like put it on power saving mode and text everybody that I burned the plug-in unit of my phone, so therefore I wasn't gonna be able to talk to anybody. Yeah, so I mean, this quality actually looks better than the computer I had. I don't know. You know what? I don't really even care. I don't expect people to watch this and like it.